Sand that sinks through solid rock, ancient brains that outlast entire bodies, and something from the birth of the planet is quietly leaking into our oceans. This is real evidence that scientists still can't explain. Deep under the floor of the North Sea, geologists from the University of Manchester recently came across something pretty strange: massive sand structures that are completely upside down. See, in geology, there's a basic rule that younger, lighter sediment sits on top of older, heavier rock. It would make sense, but these formations, nicknamed Sinkites, aren't like that at all. Millions of years ago, massive volumes of sand somehow sank into the layers beneath them, behaving more like a heavy liquid than solid earth. Scientists discovered this using high-resolution 3D imaging, and the scale is shocking. We aren't talking about a small patch of ground. These are colossal pillars of sand that moved through solid rock. The best guess right now is that some kind of ancient earthquake hit and briefly turned the ground into more of a slurry than a solid, like how you can shake wet sand and it starts behaving almost like water. But the amount of force that would need to be generated to cause something like this to happen is beyond anything we've ever documented. The James Webb Space Telescope was sent up there to find the first stars, the very beginning of everything. But what it actually found might be even bigger than that, and not in a good way. Astronomers spotted a bunch of small reddish objects in the most distant parts of space, which they nicknamed little red dots. One of them turned out to be a black hole with no galaxy around it at all. And it's got the mass of 50 million suns. That alone is crazy to try and wrap your head around, but this thing exists right near the very beginning of the universe, shortly after the Big Bang. And according to every physics model we have, a black hole needs time to get that big. It also has to slowly eat stars and gas over billions of years to bulk up. But somehow this thing is already enormous right at the start. It would kind of be like walking into a forest. It was just planted a week ago, and then you just find this big, full-grown oak tree sitting in the middle of it. And you're like, what? It just shouldn't be there. And to make things even weirder, it has no galaxy around it, which is what black holes normally feed on. So not only did it get massive and possibly fast, it seemingly did it with nothing to eat. So either our entire timeline of how the universe developed is wrong, or matter can somehow collapse into a massive black hole almost instantly. The Hadal zone is just the name for the deepest parts of the ocean, the trenches that drop more than 6 miles straight down. The pressure at those depths is hard to even picture. For a long time, the assumption was that nothing complex could survive down there. Maybe some tiny microbes, some basic worms, but nothing with any real size or sophistication to it. Recent expeditions to trenches off South America blew that assumption out the window, though. One of the strangest things they caught on camera is called the death ball sponge. Normal sponges just sit there filtering water. This one hunts. It has little hook structures it uses to snag whatever floats past. Then there are these weird fish with completely transparent skin. I mean, you can see their organs moving inside them. They're aptly named ghost fish. But the thing that's really messing with biologists isn't just that these animals exist, it's that they physically shouldn't be able to. At that depth, under that much pressure, you'd think the fats and proteins that hold living cells together would just break down, but these things are fine, and nobody really knows how. We've always been taught that Earth's core is a sealed iron engine that generates our magnetic field, but new data shows that the core is actually leaking. Specifically, it's releasing helium-3, a very rare gas that's been trapped inside the center of the planet since it was first formed from a cloud of stardust billions of years ago. Usually this gas is found in the atmosphere in tiny amounts, but scientists have detected a steady stream of it rising through the mantle and escaping into the ocean. This shouldn't be happening. If the core is leaking, it means the interior of our planet is a lot more porous than we thought. There are basically pathways running from the very center of the planet all the way up. Also creates a problem for how we calculate the Earth's future. All that geological activity, volcanoes, plate movement, the magnetic field runs off heat and energy from the core. If the core is losing material, some of those timelines might be off, but we don't know by how much, or even if this leak is something new, or if it's been going on the whole time and we just never had the tools to catch it. In late 2025, astronomers got to watch a black hole do something that had never been seen before. The normal version of events goes like this. A black hole gets close to a star, tears it apart, huge flash of light and energy, done. The whole thing is It's fast, it's violent, and it follows a pretty predictable pattern. This one, called AT2024 TVD, did not do that. It destroyed the star and then went completely dark, and months passed. Then out of nowhere, it started firing off these rapid, intense bursts of radio signals, basically spitting out the leftovers of the star it had already eaten way after the fact. That's not how it's supposed to work. When a black hole shreds something, the energy is supposed to release right then and there. The material isn't supposed to just sit there waiting, but somehow something held it in place and then let it all go at once. Months later. It's the first time scientists have ever seen something like this. In a remote cave in South America called Cueva Hanul 1, there's a series of paintings that carbon dating shows to be over 8,000 years old. That's pretty cool, but it's not actually the strange part. For 3,000 years, different groups of people came to this cave and drew the exact same patterns, using the same pigments and the same styles. I mean, think about how much human culture can change in just 100 years. But for 130 generations, these nomadic people repainted these designs without any variation. There was no written language to record the rules of the art, and these groups were constantly moving. Scientists can't quite explain how a society stayed that culturally rigid for not hundreds, but thousands of years. When a body is buried, the brain is usually the very first thing to disappear. I mean, it's soft, it's full of water, it just breaks down almost instantly, but a massive study recently archived over 4,400 ancient human brains that have survived for thousands of years. The weirdest part is that in many of these cases, the brain is the only thing left. I mean, the bones are still there, but the skin, the muscles, and organs have all rotted away. Usually, for a brain to be preserved, you need extreme conditions like freezing, or you gotta intentionally mummify it, but these brains were found in all sorts of environments: shallow graves, shipwrecks, open fields. One theory is that certain things in the soil can react with the fat in the brain tissue, slowly turn it into this kind of waxy solid, but even if that's what's going on, still doesn't explain why, in these cases, it only happened to the brain. The muscles and organs sitting right next to it in the same grave decomposed, so why just the brain? There's something called dark energy that physicists have been fairly confident about for a while now. It's basically an invisible force that works like the opposite of gravity. Instead of pulling things together, it pushes everything apart. The assumption's always been that it's a constant. Same strength yesterday, same strength today, same strength a billion years from now. But in 2025, a massive project that spent years mapping the cosmos released its data, and it's suggesting that might not be true. The numbers are pointing to dark energy changing over time. It doesn't look like it's been the stable, fixed thing that we thought it was. And that's a pretty big deal, because everything we think we know about where the universe is headed was built on that assumption. All the predictions about galaxies drifting apart, about the night sky, what it'll look like in a trillion years, about how it all eventually ends. Those were calculated with a constant in mind. If the force isn't constant, those calculations don't hold. But it goes even further than that. If something that fundamental can change, the rules that we use to describe how the universe works might not be permanent rules at all. They might just be what happens to be true right now, in this particular phase of things. When the Sundhnukur Volcano in Iceland erupted recently, it didn't behave like a normal volcano. Usually magma sits in an underground chamber a few miles beneath the surface, where it cools slightly, changes its chemical makeup, and then erupts. But when geochemists tested the lava from this eruption, they found it had come directly from the boundary where the Earth's crust meets the mantle, nearly 10 miles down, without stopping anywhere on the way. And based on everything they could measure, it made that trip in what might have been days, possibly hours. Basically, it shot up incredibly fast. The reason geologists find this genuinely alarming is that every early warning system we have for volcanoes is based on magma moving slowly. And that slow movement is what gives us days or weeks to react. If the Earth can just shoot out magma straight up through a hidden vertical tunnel in a matter of hours, there would be nothing to detect until it was too late. And these tunnels probably aren't unique to Iceland. They could be sitting under other volcanoes right now. We just weren't looking for them, because until this eruption, we had no reason to think that they existed. The Teratosses was a civilization that lived in what is now Spain about 2,500 years ago. They were incredibly wealthy and advanced, but then they suddenly vanished from history, leaving almost nothing behind. But in 2024, archaeologists found a slate that contains a series of symbols. The writing looks like a mix of Phoenician and other early writing from the region, but it doesn't follow the rules of any known language. We can see that they had a complex system of writing, but because the culture disappeared so completely, we have no clear way of translating it. There are two big mysteries to solve. First, where did this specific alphabet come from? It seems to have appeared out of nowhere, fully formed and highly sophisticated. And second, how does civilization this literate and organized just blink out of existence? And that has been the video for today. I will catch you, yes, you specifically, next time.